Here now from TJ, who's calling in from Westchester County on the Democratic line up in New York. Good morning, TJ. You're on with us. What's your top issue heading into the midterms?
Yes, thank you for taking my call. Let me first preface the call by saying I'm a recently retired 30-year veteran New York City high school history teacher. I taught at a vocational high school with a paralegal program. So in addition to teaching American history, civics, economics, and world history, I've also been tasked to teach classes in constitutional law. So I'm going to start with a big picture and say the number one issue in this country right now is the level of ignorance among the American electorate. And let me just back up a little bit and say that's how we got in this place in the first place with our current administration. And I say this to the voters sincerely, and I say it to the elected Republican representatives that it's a willful ignorance. Let me just back up. As far as the ignorance, January 6th, 2021, I'll give you one example. You got a guy live streaming himself in front of the west part of the Capitol, live streaming himself back to his girlfriend in Oklahoma. And he's saying, honey, can you believe it? I made it all the way to the White House. It was the United States Capitol, not the White House. Okay? And, look, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I quote the Federalist Papers like a lot of people quote Scripture, evangelicals especially. And that's why we're in the position we're in. Science and religion, that was decided a long time ago. I can say 100 things right now. You got RFK with the vaccine. I got family in South Carolina, 1,000 cases of measles. The insanity is just crazy. Now, let me just make 2 points about the previous callers. As far as the national debt is concerned, Republicans versus Democrats, Democrats may spend a lot of money, but it's on helping people. Iraq War, Operation Iraqi Freedom, don't forget, I had kids in my classroom for 20 years that were victims of that, Syrian refugees. CBO numbers, $10 billion a month, 12 months a year. We weren't there 2 or 3 years. We were there for 8 years. Plus veterans care. Again, I've got family in South Carolina. They're still walking around toothless and bootless from Vietnam, and they're not being treated correctly. The cost of the veterans' care is just exponentially going higher and higher. And now here we are in another war, and I would agree with that other caller. I think he was from New York. Netanyahu bamboozled our president into this. And now it's like the tar baby syndrome from Vietnam. Once you got your hands on it, you can't get your hands off of it. This is a complete and utter debacle, and it's all because the American people voted for somebody they should have known from grabbing them by the pee that this person should never be in the Oval Office, period, full stop.
Thanks for all of that, TJ. I have a follow-up question, a bit more on the political side, and I want to just lean into obviously you're frustrated with Republicans. As a Democrat, I don't know if you heard the clip I played a few moments ago from Graham Plattner, the Democratic candidate up in Maine for Senate. I'm curious how you feel about your party right now, because that Maine Senate race has been really interesting. Graham Plattner is a first-time candidate, and he launched his race last year, and the sitting governor, Janet Mills, who was the kind of chosen candidate from Chuck Schumer and other Democratic leaders, was never able to catch up. Do you share the frustration that primary voters in Maine appear to be exhibiting, or do you think that speaks of a broader kind of frustration with your party?
Well, I hope this doesn't go over the audience's head, but this all goes back to gerrymandering. Once gerrymandering began, and both sides are to blame, though I think historically the data supports that Republican states have done it more, and certainly in the current case, let's be honest, Texas and their governor started this, and that's why we're at. But the gerrymandering and the whole electoral college system, I believe, was intended for the right purposes. I remember when we used to teach this, we used to say that there's more uneducated people in the country. So if you have an uneducated person running for office and you have the popular vote, you get an uneducated president. We wanted educated, intelligent people who were informed, and that's how I believe the electoral college system was sort of created that way to sort of not have this mass populism, which we wound up with anyway, and that's a result of gerrymandering. Gerrymandering has completely wiped out what the electoral college system was intended to prevent.
All right, TJ, thanks a lot. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and listen. Yeah, I don't want to, every time I speak to elected representatives and their staffers, I don't feel like I'm giving a history lesson. But I really mean is the civics class that I taught, participation in government, where it was seniors who turn 18, get registered to vote at the end of the course. this is really where we're at right now. We have people who, the guy who was talking about the nuclear problem in Iran. Please, I mean, history, WMD. What do we need? Colin Powell to go in front of the UN with the yellow cake uranium again? This is nonsense. People make it sound like building a nuclear bomb is putting a furniture set together from IKEA. It takes years, and the hypocrisy is just nonsense. There's no way Iran is going to have a nuclear bomb that's capable of hitting anything in the region, Europe, or the United States in the next 5 to 10 years. And right now, by the way, just follow up on this, the crew members, thousands of crew members in the Gulf, they're eating canned food and trying to fish for tuna because they're starving on these boats right now. This one man and the prime minister of Israel got the whole world in this mess. And right now, I think the whole world needs to look at both of those leaders and say, you did this. Now we have to figure out how to clean up your mess. I can't sum it up any better.
Well, thanks for weighing in, TJ. I think I wanted to put up this graphic. I've been talking about that Gallup poll a lot, but they touched on a lot of interesting things. And your mention of what you taught in terms of civics and what issues people are engaged on, I thought was relevant for this. Gallup, just in the last couple of days, asked people what the most important non-economic issue facing the country is to them. And you could see it right there on screen. 28% say the government and poor leadership. 11% say immigration. Strikingly, at least to me, 8% say the war in the Middle East. 5% say wars and fears of wars in general, though so many of the callers are touching on the war right now. And 4% say unifying the country, something we also heard from another caller earlier. That's a recent Gallup poll you see there, published on April 28th.